Look at the faith of Joseph. We're looking at it to look at his faith. Where is the faith? How do you see his faith? Where is the expression of faith in all of this? In Joseph saying, you'll be one day going back, and when you go back, take my bones. Where is faith? First of all, you need to look at the time frame when Joseph's faith was expressed. When was the faith expressed? It was expressed during the closing hours of his life upon this earth. When he died, he made mention, it says, of the departing of the children of Israel. See, he spent all of his life in Egypt, basically. I told you, at 17 years of age, he came here as a slave. Now he is 110 years old. So he's been there almost 100 years. Just imagine being there 100 years. Nowadays, when a person goes out of this country for 5 or 10 years, then he doesn't know what this country is all about, They forget this country because you've been out for 10 years, It's very easy to forget, especially if you don't ever return. And if you stay there, it's very easy that you stay there and you forget the country where you're from. But here is a guy who's been there almost 100 years. Lived with that foreign culture, lived among these people, dealt with Egyptians and governed Egypt as a governor of Egypt. But yet, when he got ready to die, none of that seems to fill his mind. His position in Egypt is all of everything that he got there, his status and his wealth and power and all of that. None of that is in his mind. He's talking about how the children of Israel will one day be going back to Israel, will be going back to Canaan. In other words, after living for almost 100 years there in Egypt, he never became an Egyptian in his mind. He never got adapted to that way of life. He never got used to that kind of thinking, that kind of living, that philosophy, that way of life and all that. He lived there. He was a useful person there. He flourished there. He did good there. In fact, the whole land of Egypt and the surrounding places were eating food because of Joseph. He is the one that gave the idea how to save 7 years of plenty and the grains from the 7 years of plenty so that it'll last for the next 7 years of famine. Because of him, everybody was eating there. He lived a very fruitful, good life. Everybody was praising him. He was part of that world and a very effective part of that world. Very successful man. But never became part of that world. Never. Never identified with it. His mind was about Canaan land because that is what God has promised. I don't belong to this land. I don't belong to this life. I don't belong to this philosophy. I don't belong to these ways. I'm a different man. I may live here. I may be effective here. I may be successful here. I may be useful here. I may do a lot of good here while I'm living here. But my mind is on God and God's promises for me. God's future that He has for me. My future with my God and my future in the way that God has intended it to be. Hello? What an amazing thought for a Christian to think about today. We live in a world. Very easy to be influenced by the world and become a part of the world and become so attached to the world. Just because we are successful, just because we are very useful, because we are needed here and we are doing so much good. It's so easy to become completely mixed with the world, become like the world. Here the Bible is wonderfully teaching how you can live in an alien culture. The culture does not follow your worship, the faith in the living God. Culture does not value your values. A totally different culture, but yet be blessing to those people where you live and show forth the glory of God in and through your life and do a lot of good, but yet not be a part of the system.